Thanksgiving and Hanukkah, two awesome holidays, but perhaps a little too close together. I mean, this year, I'm not sure I'll have finished digesting my pumpkin pie before it's time for latkes. The two holidays have very different histories and different messages. Hanukkah goes way back to 164 BCE, that's almost 23 centuries ago. At that time, our ancestors living in the land of Israel were afflicted by a new conquering nation, an outpost of the Greek Empire called the Seleucids, who tried to force them to Hellenize, that is, to assimilate, to worship Greek gods instead of the worshiping the God of Israel. So this is a holiday that reminds us of political oppression, assimilation, and the importance of resistance. Our ancestors fought back, and eventually, led by the Hasmoneans, they were able to reconquer Jerusalem, rededicate the temple, and to restore worship of God. The Talmud says that the next year, these days were established as a national holiday. Kava'um va'asa'um yemei halel v'hoda'ah. They were turned into days of praise and thanksgiving. And that is a connection to the festival that we Americans celebrate as Thanksgiving. The history of our festival goes back 400 years to 1621, when the colonists, the English colonists named the Pilgrims, encountered one of the Native American peoples, the Wampanoag. The Wampanoag had just been through a terrible period of epidemic, and the colonists had just survived a first brutal winter. The two peoples were both weakened, and the Wampanoag were kind in showing the English colonists how to survive in New England winters. They taught them how to grow local crops, such as the three sisters of maize and climbing beans and squash that all worked well together. And in this way, the English colonists were able to survive. When they had their Thanksgiving festival, a fall harvest festival, they welcomed the Wampanoag, and the two peoples worked together for a time. So we have two very different holidays. They are united by the common theme of gratitude, and an attitude of gratitude is always appreciated. It's important in our lives as well. I've told you a simple version of the two stories of the holidays, but let's now complicate things. We are, after all, a school that is dedicated to going deeper, to nuancing things. And so we will learn that the holiday of Hanukkah, for all of its glory, for all of its celebration of the triumph and rededication of the temple, also opened a difficult period in our history. 2 centuries when the Hasmonean family became our monarchs, and they fought among themselves. This was a period of internal Jewish strife, which eventually led to the colonization of our land, not by the Greeks, but by the Romans, the destruction of the temple, and the end of Jewish sovereignty for 2 millennia until the state of Israel would arise. And so what you see here is we won our freedom, but then we learned to fight among ourselves until we lost our freedom once again. It is a sobering message, and one that we need to bear in mind. Thanksgiving also has some difficult messages. The Wampanoag, who welcomed the colonists and helped them to survive, were themselves then decimated. Many of them were killed, many were enslaved. And in fact, centuries later, in 1970, the Wampanoag declared Thanksgiving to be a national day of mourning. Their experience mirrored the experience of many native peoples who were forced to abandon their faith, their language, their dress, their culture, and to Christianize and to become part of the dominant English-speaking culture. We Jews, I think, can sympathize with the experience of the native peoples of America. We too have known what it feels like to be enslaved, to be oppressed, to be forced to assimilate to a majority culture. And so when we Jews celebrate Thanksgiving, we should do this with an awareness of the importance of minority rights in our culture, in our society, that we can become people who learn from the experience of others and teach from our own experience too. So you see, these two holidays are linked by delicious foods. They're linked by the attitude of gratitude, but they're also linked by a deeper and more complex narrative about the importance of protecting the rights of minorities within a majority society. Only in that way can the society be truly strong and be truly blessed. I wish you and your families a happy Thanksgiving and a Chag Urim Sameach.